another Solid Gold podcast.
And it's a beautiful day, and I'm Melanie Walker here in Johannesburg, full of the joys of autumn, and I'm sure that Jenni Baxter sitting in Antibes is full of the joys of spring. You look like you are. It's another lovely day there.
Hello, Mel. Yes, it is. Actually, it went up to 30 degrees on Saturday, which is pretty warm for spring, but I think it was, we had almost like a Berg wind. I felt like I was back in KwaZulu-Natal. It was amazing.
Oh, excelente. No, I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic at the moment. And I think that, I hope that a lot of people are feeling a little bit more positive about stuff, although you go onto social media and you'd think that there's like the end of the world is coming. I suppose it does feel like that occasionally. We had a whole day without load shedding the other day. I didn't know what to do with that much power. It's like, I've got the power. I should get my sword and there can be only one. I was having scenes of the Highlander in my head again, which I know is bizarre, but anyway. The Scottish
so was that at the weekend?
Yeah, on the weekend we had like a whole day, and I was like thinking, when's our power going out? Oh, it's not going out. I didn't know what to do. It was like, whoa, I can actually kind of watch something, like the whole thing without it cutting off in the middle. It was rather pleasant, although I was working with, and so I wouldn't have noticed, to be honest with you. Such is life. So what has been happening in the world of SApeople.com?
Weather-wise, Andre Pollard, the Springbok fly half?
Yeah. I love the way she always like, what was that again?
Well,
a rugby player. Yeah.
Yeah. A really good one who helps us win very often. I have watched him and photographed him quite a bit. But so he's in Leicester at the moment in England. And remember I told you it was snowing last week. So we got a great video that his wife posted of him trying to get all the snow off his car. But I think it was her caption that was the best about how difficult this was for somebody who's a perfectionist to have their car covered in snow.
Oh, no. Oh.
But shame.
know.
One of the saddest news, I think, is Costa Titch, who collapsed and passed away on stage. And that made news all around the world. We had people in Australia, America, England, everybody sending us news headlines. So, the rest of the world was thinking of South Africa. It's been a pretty rough time for musicians in SA.
Well, of course, yesterday, today is Wednesday, but Gloria Bosman, the great jazz singer, also passed away, which is, I've just seen on social media that everybody is like kind of reeling from this because she really was absolutely adored by so many people and one of our great singers in the country as well.
I'm so sorry, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so no, that is for all of the people who knew and loved those people and friends, family, our most sincere condolences from the two blondes on SApeople.com.
Definitely.
On to things which might affect the whole country, the country as a whole, and I don't know if they're going to be allowed to go ahead with it. I know they've been threatening for this whole national shutdown on Monday the 20th by the EFF. I saw something on there about the guys from the EFF going out to the airports and saying to all of the people at the airports, you will close the airport down on the day. It's a complete national shutdown. And I'm sitting and thinking, what is that going to achieve except having fewer people voting for you in the next elections? Because I don't think very many people will be happy.
It's a pretty tough one. I mean, it's not just the EFF. There's other people as well. The EFF have pointed out that, how come when other people wanted Zuma out, because part of their national shutdown is that they would like Ramaphosa to be replaced. They're saying to have a man in presidency, over 87,000 people have been murdered since he got into power. The load shedding, the economy, various things, that the hidden dollars in his sofa. And they're saying, with Zuma, you didn't complain when we did, shutdowns and protests, and now you're complaining. But as you say, with the airport, that is the difference. Last time with Zuma, people were able to, but also with Zuma, people were voluntarily able to join these marches, whereas with this one, they are almost threatening, if you don't join. perhaps you'll be looted. They're not saying we're going to do the looting, but they're saying, close your shops, close your airports.
I just think that everybody sees it as a huge threat. And frankly, that's kind of, I hate to say Gestapo tactics, but it kind of smacks of that to me. No.
Well, I think the DA has gone to court over it, so they're trying to get it prevented.
Me, I don't understand politics. I just always got involved in the environmental side of things. That's what I used to do in the way of politics, is I'd go down to Parliament and go and harangue ministers about not strip mining. So that's as much as I get into politics, and of course local ward politics, which can be quite difficult in a little village. Sheesh. Which is very difficult.
I'd like to do actually a shout out to Adrian Ruiz, who is the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs for the DA, so Shadow Deputy Minister. He really does so much. He works nights, weekends, etc. And at the moment, we said he went to the Supreme Court of Appeal about the loss of South African citizenship. Yeah, I caught up with him yesterday, and he said that the hearing went well, but judgment was reserved, and we can typically expect this to take 1 to 3 months.
Okay.
Well, so hopefully we'll have some good news soon. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. All right.
Fingers crossed.
So let's get on to... Huh?
No, and something else where he's helping as well is there's this British guy in South Africa, like many foreigners, who, is earning a lot of money, employing South Africans, doing philanthropic work, really loves South Africa. He doesn't want to leave South Africa. He wants to stay there, but he's not South African. And he's been there for over 10 years. And has been, desperately asking Home Affairs for a permanent residency.
But they should have given him that after 2 years, shouldn't they?
Yeah, they just keep coming up with, what he calls frivolous reasons, untrue reasons for why he can't stay. He feels a lot of it is a little bit xenophobic. Anyway, we've got the article in SA People with a video from him. He's now pledged money to help other people to try and create a precedent. And Adrian Ruiz has also agreed to take on that for us.
Well, it seems like it would be something that you want to keep the person who's doing that. Whereas, I did read something yesterday where they're going on I'm open to correction here, about a crackdown on the Zimbabweans. Like they reckon, over 1 million Zimbabweans have come through into the country, and they're saying that they haven't got the right papers and this, that, and the other, so they're working on repatriations, even for people who've been here for quite a few years. I don't know, so it just seems bizarre.
I know, it's so awful, I just know, there's so many really good workers and people who just want a good life, who just want to provide for their family and not cause disturbance and
just get on with life and work together. That's what the whole spirit of Ubuntu is about, after all. So let's get off of that stuff, because there's not very much we can do about it. However, there is stuff that we can do to make people's lives a little happier. And that's what a lot of the stories that come from SAPeople.com are about, the happy stories. And I see you've got here something about, and you can get into your story, but it just says Parktown Prawn. Now, for those of you, I think we all know what a Parktown Prawn is. They get known as Parkmore prawns, Parkhurst prawns, Park prawns. They're the giant king crickets. Okay. I personally don't mind them. They come wandering through the house. I shoo them back into the garden because they're pretty good for your soil, because they bury down and they turn the soil over. Okay, so then, and the hardy-dars like to eat them, so I don't have a problem with them. However, most people are terrified of them, and if they get like in a corner, they squirt ink and, well, I don't know, it's not ink, that stuff. So people are freaked out about them.
Do you remember my curtain in Craighall Park?
Yes.
They destroyed my curtain.
Yeah. So, but a friend of mine, somebody sent him over a parcel. I think it was a pair of shoes or something. And somehow or the other, when he opened this parcel in Los Angeles, there was a Parktown prawn in one shoe all the way over. So he went out and he got a little small fish tank and he kept it as a pet. But then he was worried that it was going to be lonely, and he was sort of like phoned me and said, is there any way that you can maybe send me another one? I was thinking, that's how things like rabbits start in Australia and destroy the
Yeah.
entire world. So no, I'm not sending you another one.
He should rather have been put on a first-class ticket home.
Yeah. So
We've
what
got
is your Parktown Prawn story?
Well, we've got a fabulous story written by Andrea Zanin. She's got this Our Fireside Stories website, and she's collaborating with SA People. So if you have any cute stories like that, send them to us for her, and so that we can share them. And this was her going to school in the morning, and one of her brothers, a similar thing where a Parktown prawn suddenly came out of his school satchel, and just how the kids in the car couldn't sit in their seats, like they're climbing on the dashboard, and mom had to pull over on the road, pull over. They all jumped out the car, and that's just what you do what most of us, except for Melanie, do when we see a Parktown prawn, is just get as far away from it as you can.
Okay, I do have to say though, when it comes to spiders, I'm not your girl. Okay, my dad once he went walking in the Tsitsikamma forest because he was a big hiker. I mean, we live up to our surname, the Walkers, right? So he comes back and he's busy unpacking his thing at home, and puts his rucksack down and he takes his hiking boots out and he puts them down. My mother sat there and she's just watching, and she just sees these legs coming out of the one boot. So she watches, and this thing, which is about the size of my hand, crawls over the boot and comes down, and it's now walking across the floor. At which stage she went and grabbed a can of Doom and spraying it, not like a prophet or anything. Okay, we're not doing Doom profiting, but sprayed this thing. It curled up into a ball, and she thought, okay, fine. She wouldn't go near it. She just watched it. And about a half an hour later, the legs unfurled and it walked off again and it disappeared. And she said, you know what, if it lived through a whole thing of Doom, it can live in the house. Wow. I'd go outside, and what they do is they take the small tender sapling branches, like twigs and things, and pull them together and make these huge nests. So I'd see them in the garden every now and then. So we had this host of Tsitsikamma forest spiders in our little man-made forest in Johannesburg. It's just like, oh my
amazing.
God.
In Noosa, obviously in Australia, we had squillions of spiders, including those huge huntsmen. But my funniest always was when we were walking in the evening, and they would make, just at the end of the day, they suddenly make these huge like nest things, like hammocks that come across, and you would be walking, and if you're walking fast, you would honestly like boomerang back, because it would spring you back. Like that's how you couldn't walk through them. They're amazing stuff. I mean, honestly.
It sounds like the island of Arid in the Seychelles. It's actually a bird island. Lots of birds. Nobody lives on the island, I think, except for one custodian. But the spiders, they make the webs across the pathways at night, and you're walking just with the big spider like this size. Huge. Anyway, enough about insects and all of those kind of things, because I don't like bugs. Anyway, so
well, for expats, we've got some lovely news.
Yeah.
Which is Ladysmith Black Mambasa are going to be at Harvard University on Sunday night. So that's really special. Spreading peace and love and So it's at Sanders Theatre, which is quite well known if people are in that area. And then on the article, we've also got how they got their name, how Joseph Shabalala came up with Ladysmith Black Mambasa.
I will have to read that.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
They're very, very cool. Okay, so what news do you have from expats?
We've got a brilliant interview with Stelio Savante. He's been in numerous movies, acted South African, and acted with a range of names and characters, and in this he talks really openly about working with Anne Heche on her very last film, which I think I've mentioned before, and also Tom Sizemore, who sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago. And he had helped Tom quite a bit. He was also very close to Anne. So he's also got some great tips for South Africans on making it in Hollywood. Basically, you've got to pitch up as you, and it's a marathon, just know that you're in for a marathon. And he's got a really good tip about if ever you're acting in movies and you need to lose your South African accent, you need to put on somebody else's accent, which is that you have to prepare, you have to start thinking in that other accent.
To be
and
sure.
Once you can think, yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
like Arnold Vosloo does a pretty good. But the funny thing is with Arnold Vosloo, when you see him and he's playing a South African in the movie, he doesn't sound South African, which is
funny.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like Charlize Theron as well. She was in a movie where she played a South African, and in fact, I think it's the movie that Sean Penn made, because I then went to the press conference in Cannes, and he had ghosted her by then. Remember when ghosting became famous, and they sat two people apart, and it was so awkward, this entire interview with them two not talking to each other. But anyway, she was a South African in that film, and you're right. It felt awkward. She didn't feel South African enough.
My favorite one ever, of course, is Val Kilmer in The Saint trying to do a South African accent.
I know.
He wasn't too bad, but he just didn't get it quite right. But anyway. But Val, I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother story. We'll get onto that another day. What is this about? I mean, I still want to know how people make money being a YouTuber.
Well, it's because other people, well, first of all, if you've got a lot of followers, you have adverts that come up on YouTube. You see them, either you have to wait 30 seconds or they pop up. So you're making money there, as long as you've got lots of followers. And secondly, you get sponsored. So what happened with this YouTuber that I think you're referring to, Mr. Beast, who just did an amazing video in South Africa. It's already been watched, less than a week, been watched by over 5 million people. So what happened to him? He's only 24, and about a few years ago, he got offered $10,000, and he said, "I'll only take this $10,000 if I can give it all away." And so that's been his modus operandi, is whatever money he gets, he gives away, but then he's making lots of other money on his other channel. And so he's given away, he got sponsorship and gave away 20,000 shoes to South African kids for walking to school who had never had shoes before and had really been battling.
Pairs of
and
shoes.
he kind of,
just one shoe.
He gave them each a pair, yes.
So like 20,000 shoes, that's 10,000 pairs. Okay.
Yeah, 20,000 pairs of shoes. And he teamed up with Barefoot No More. So if ever you're wondering who to support, Barefoot No More do a lot. And sorry, while we're talking shoes, do you remember a few weeks ago I told you about a lady from Richards Bay who was going over to Vietnam to run in the Ultra Asia race. And it's like a 4-day race. It's really grueling. Well, Nontutuko Mgabi is her name.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
I don't even have it written down here, so I can't tell you. Oh,
okay.
Nontutuko.
Yes.
Oh gosh, that's a good one. It's almost as good as
think
the
I
new
said it
Minister
better
of Electricity. I can't say his name either.
Well, Ms. Mugabe did really, really well. She came second in the women and fourth overall. And on the last day, she was just, and the whole time, she was running for shoes. She's running to raise sponsorship money to buy shoes for school kids in KwaZulu-Natal. Who also have never had shoes. And
that's one, I wonder do they do it anywhere else in the world where on the last day of matric, that all the girls, when they write their final exams, they leave their school shoes, if they're in good condition, obviously. They leave all of their school shoes behind. They always take like flip-flops or whatever to walk out with. And they leave their shoes, and all of those shoes get taken to the less privileged communities for the kids, which I think is, wonderful. I don't know if they do it around the world, or is it just a South African thing?
I know it's definitely a South African thing. I don't know if I've seen it elsewhere. I feel like we did one story about somewhere else, but I can't remember now.
Well, I'm still waiting for a pair of those lekker veldskoen boots that they were bringing out at one stage. We're going to have to get our friend in to come and chat to us again.
Nick, yes.
Yeah, Nick Dreyer. Well, I'll send him a message and say, Nick, we were talking about you today again. Anyhow, right. So there's YouTubers, and then somebody who's, I'm sure, like making an absolute fortune on YouTube as well, because when we're talking about him quite a lot, with the Amagluku cat. I'm a lug. I'm a lug.
No, you know, I was just going to tell you, the kiffness was just so funny because he sent a message to his real name's Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast, sent a message to him saying, please make a video where you give electricity to South Africa.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
That would be.
No, but I mean, the kiffness I absolutely adore. I think his stuff is fantastic. So, I mean, yeah, I wonder how well he does off YouTube.
Very, very well. Very well. And, but you know, he also gives away so much of it. That seems to be a key with so many of these people that are successful. You know, the kiffness is 50% entertainment and 50% giving back and reaching out to, you know, to other countries, other places, and to South Africans as well.
The good deeds guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so now you've got something else here. Duhan van der Merwe. What is that about?
So Duhan, he's Akka van der Merwe's brother. Akka Springbok.
I'm not going to help you.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, Duhan is the guy who recently helped Scotland beat England at Twickenham and scored what people were calling, all around the world, were calling one of the best tries ever. And even Duhan himself says, you know, I did a lot of footwork. I don't normally do that. Like, it wasn't one of my normal kind of tries. And he thinks it is the best he's ever done. So World Rugby interviewed him, and we've shared that video on SA People. It is a brilliant video. He's obviously still very South African, but his gratitude to Scotland, he's been through some really tough times, really, really tough times. And his gratitude to Scotland and Edinburgh for taking him on, his pride at wearing, you know, the Scottish rugby jersey. It's really beautiful, really humble. Watch the video. As so many people have written underneath, you know, just when I thought I couldn't love you more, Duhan, you've just, you know, made me love you more.
Well,
So,
I mean, you know, it's Van der
cool
Merwe
guy.
playing for the Scots. I mean, at least if you know, he was a Makatini from Maritzburg. Remember that ad?
No.
What kind of a mak are you?
Was that chomp or something?
No, it was lunch bar, the much more munch bar. What kind of a mak are you? I'm a Makatini from Maritzburg. Right, okay. All right, so now, as you can tell, my children have a much better Scottish accent because they've watched Brave like 100 times, and they will just break into fluent Scots, but then I break into the Irish. And then at the moment, I have to be honest, we'll get onto the entertainment later, but if you had any intention of watching the Banshees of Inisherin,
Yeah.
with Colin Farrell and Brendan, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't. It is the
Why?
most annoying.
I've watched it.
Have you?
Yeah.
I hated it.
Why didn't you like it?
Because it was ridiculous. That's all. It's 2 hours of my life I'm not going to get back. I'm sitting in there and, you know, there's a certain way that they would say dog. I'm not going to say it because I'm flying. But I mean, I just wanted to look at these men go over there, say poke Mahone, and then rip off their arm and hit them with a wet hand. They were behaving like histrionic children. No,
Well, you know, I dragged about 5 friends along with me to see it, telling them that it was a comedy. I thought it was going to be a good old English comedy.
Irish, my love. My Irish is
Irish. And I went to see The Whale last night.
Oh, and any good?
With Brendan Fraser. It's really good, but it's harrowing.
Okay,
So-
then I think I may stay away. And also because I saw how much weight he's put on for the movie, and I'm sitting there and thinking, this is one of my heartthrobs when I was younger, when he was George of the Jungle. I think I'd be absolutely terrified to see. I saw
But
the
he
shorts.
didn't. He a lot of it he's wearing a prosthetic. Yeah.
I know, but it's still it's gotten rid of my idea of, you know, the leading man.
Yeah. But he acts so well. His face, his eyes, just his eyes. He just acts with his eyes. It's amazing.
Okay. So we talked about Home Affairs. That's the guy that you were talking about in
Yes.
Cape Town.
Cape
no,
Town,
sorry, not
Cape Town.
Cape Town is about the vegan spots. I did see something about that. Sorry, I just know the stories were one after the other.
Yes. So they've launched a My Plant-Based City map, where you can now find out exactly where the vegan places are and where the restaurants are that serve like vegetarian food as well.
That's fantastic. It's a great warning for the rest of us who aren't vegans. Okay. So, Braaiface, rugby, sunny skies, and Chevrolet. There we go. Okay, so what else have you got in the way of news for the people, well, from people who are here, local good news? What good news do we have? I'll get there eventually.
There was the beautiful, beautiful story of, I don't know if you saw the video, Mac from Carte Blanche. He lost a really dear friend of his, Andre, who was run over by a motorist in a hit and run. And so he pledged to do the Ironman in his honor. Mm-hmm. And having never, he'd cycled, but that was it. He was a cyclist. And it's grueling. I think 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer cycle, 42 kilometer marathon. He did it, Nelson Mandela Bay, the Africa triathlon. Mm-hmm. But the video at the end is just amazing. And our friend Derek Watts is there to they just can't stop hugging each other. But my best is the woman. You know how they
ululating.
Ululating. Oh my goodness, the goosebumps. It's just beautiful. And so amazing achievement, very, very inspiring. Just you really do have to just put your mind to it and go through it,
But our sports people do a lot of amazing stuff for people here in South Africa as well. And I think that the fact that they do just adds to the fact that we're so proud of our sports people, regardless of what sport. I mean, obviously my blood is green, so of course it's like Bokke, Bokke, Bokke all the way. But there's other people. You've got this, the Olympics honored, who's it, Ans Botha and Wade van Niekerk.
Well, no, Ans Botha was Wade van Niekerk's coach.
Oh, okay.
She is the one that turned things around for him and made him become a record-breaking athlete. Of course, his talent too, but her methods. And so the Olympics have honored her because they are launching this. It's called WISH is the short word for it, but it's like a project with 1 million injected into it, $1 million, to help 100 women around the world reach elite level of coaching. Because as Ans Botha says, there's just not enough female coaches out there. And they are so good. And she started as a coach because she was a mom of kids, and she felt that the teachers at school weren't really applying themselves.
Jenny, I'd hate it if she was a mother of sheep.
Sorry.
Sorry. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, mother of human children who were very sporty. And that's how she became one of the world's best. And the Olympics has honored her and is using her to launch this thing. And she's 81 years old, and she said she is as passionate now as ever, and nothing's going to stop her continuing.
Cool. Well, we also have heroes, of course, who aren't just sports people. And we have like the kids who are heroes, people who are heroes. I see you've got the story, I think we talked about a little while back, about the Vaal River flood victims.
Yeah, and then you put me onto Peter Moray, Pretoria photographer, and his friend in Potchefstroom, Charlene.
Lost everything, literally everything.
Yeah. And it's just been amazing. We shared the story, and the people that have come forward to help her is phenomenal. But it's another one of those beautiful stories where, Peter's also gone out of his comfort zone. He's never asked for help in his life. And here he is on social media having to say, please help my friend. I can't help her enough, And everybody's come forward, and even her old school as well.
Yeah, no, that's terribly sad. And I applaud all of these people who go out of their way a lot of the time to help other people as well. But getting on to we're talking about sheep, but not sheep. I always think of sheep and hippopotamus in the same kind of thing. Actually, it should be sheep and elephant, because I remember up at Mabula Lodge when the baby elephant, Safari, was the elephant that eventually ended up being euthanized. He was a little elephant with Adele. Oh, no, sorry, what's her name? Willie and... But she was the ex-Miss South Africa. Why have I gone blank? Look at this. I must be getting old. Odette Scrooby. Odette Joubert now. And Willie Joubert. They started Mabula. And Safari was the little elephant who used to go running through their house. But his best friend was a sheep. And the one night when I was there, they were relocating a hippopotamus. And it was a case of this hippo wasn't getting on. He was like in a foul mood. And I mean, literally having to throw myself onto the back of a flatbed truck to get away from a hippo in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine, because we've got a video where Shamwari, they started that YouTube channel during lockdown to kind of connect people with wildlife who couldn't go on safari. And they've just celebrated their 100th episode, because, even after lockdown, people still want this. It's amazing. And so they have just relocated 3 little hippo who, during the Eastern Cape drought, got left behind by their herd, who were looking for more water. Yeah. So these little 3, Shamwari adopted and has been rehabilitating them. But they've never seen a lot of water. And they just got put back in the wild.
Oh, fantastic.
And the same thing, they opened the big trucks to let these 3 hippos run out, who just love the water. They'd never seen so much water. It's the first time they've really swum properly. But the funniest thing is watching all the humans as they open those doors, running on top of the trucks. Yeah, they look like ants. They're like going mad.
Well, I mean, hippos kill more people than any other animals do, apart from mosquitoes. I mean, everybody, they're so cute. No. You stay away from them.
The first time I ever went on holiday to Lake Malawi, the day we got there, they said to us, last week we had a winner here from, I think it was from Radio 5, I can't remember. So, okay. We had a winner here who ran into the lake and got taken by a hippo. So kind of spoiled our holiday a little. Well, obviously it spoiled that man's holiday. I'm very sorry to him and his family. But yeah, it made us a little nervous.
On treasure hunt, the one time we were down at Lake St. Lucia, and there I am at the beginning of the show. We were starting off before we got into the helicopter and hovered. We're sitting on a boat on the lake, and my jumpsuit at that stage was still a yellow and blue one. And the person who was out there with us telling us the story before we got into the helicopter was like going, hippos don't like yellow. Yellow to a hippo is like red to a bull. Okay, so I'm sitting there thinking, this is a great time to tell me, where I'm sitting here in the middle of nowhere on this boat wearing yellow. I mean, just get me out of here already. That was very interesting.
No. And did you see, talking yellow, thinking of a lion, did you see, we had a video yesterday where yesterday morning it happened. There was a kind of wandering lion, he hasn't found his place in the world yet, in the Kruger, and he had landed up on a rock in the middle of the Crocodile River and got surrounded by these hippo, and the one hippo actually came up and, huge jaws, trying to, but I think the hippo more wanted to tell him, get out of our space.
Yeah, because hippos are herbivores.
Yeah.
So, but a shame. That we didn't talk about it last week, about the other lion which had been wandering around on the R512 in Gauteng. I don't know have you heard anything? What's happened to that lion? Hopefully they didn't shoot it. Maybe I hope they just rehomed it. I don't know what happened. I haven't seen further to the story. All these, so we do have lions walking in the street here.
So many lately. Yeah.
All right, well, that's all very entertaining, but what can we watch on the small screen, which is a little bit safer?
Well, you know how you were just talking about South Africans being sporty and everything? The new season of Below Deck began on Netflix today. And
but what's that got to do with sport? What is Below Deck?
Well, Below Deck is about people working on super yachts.
That's not sporty.
wait. So the guy who's on is South African. His name is Ashton Pienaar, and he is ripped like you can't believe. In fact, one of the girls says,
"What's this on after all?"
Fun. She says he's a fun piece of man candy. so he is. He's a very fun piece of man candy, and I think that somewhere in the season, episode 10, he's going to have an accident that's one of the biggest, what is the biggest that Below Deck's ever had. So he is definitely one to watch, but he's really sweet. He's really sweet, but he says, because when he takes off his clothes, people are like, wow. And he says, oh yeah, they make us, strong and hard in South Africa. So it's a very good advert for that kind of South African.
For our Urkies, yeah.
There's many kinds of South Africans, beautiful South Africans. We're not all the same.
I know we're always going on about boer soek 'n vrou, and then somebody put on Facebook yesterday, the one thing that these people who have applied to it don't really think about is all of these girls don't think about the fact that you're going to be living on a farm. And that's why a lot of them bail.
No coffee shop nearby.
No, so I was like, yeah, but I still want somebody to help me with the blonde soekeboer. There we go. So that'll coming to a screen near you soon. Right. So we'll got what is Below Deck on? Is it on Showmax?
That's on Netflix. It's on Netflix now. If you've got Showmax, particularly if you're overseas and you want to plug into a South African TV series, there's the new season of Die Bail. And that features Detective Piet van der Bijl, who is just like this brilliant detective, and his team, and they are solving murder cases. And I think this time it's kind of going to turn on them. They are the target. So...
Ooh. I might give that a watch because I'm watching Father Brown at the moment. So I mean, if I can watch Father Brown, I can watch something South African too. All right, and of course, Showmax 2 for 1 deal has been extended.
Well. Yes, to 31st of March.
Okay, and I see that you have coming up. You've got something which is very exciting for me because I've also been posting this person's pictures on the bulb group because oh my goodness me, the Sandhof lilies in Namibia. The pictures, I always think of them Captain Kale, okay, but I know it's not Captain Kale. It's Kale, I don't know how to say the surname, but it's Kylene CPT is the Instagram handle.
It's Kyle Gooch.
Yeah.
Gooch. His name is Kyle Gooch.
But his Instagram is Kyle I-N CPT. So obviously Kyle in Cape Town. But I always think of Captain Kyle. He's
he's a landscape photographer based there. And the stunning pictures and that video as well. So we'll have that on SA People. He's given us permission. It's such a rare phenomenon, and it's only those millions of lilies on that farm in Namibia. They only bloom for 4 to 6 days. So you've got that challenge to get there and get those photos, and he got them. He really captured them so beautifully.
Absolutely stunning. All right, there we have it. So, of course, if you have any wonderful pictures or wonderful stories you'd like to share with us, because we love it when people do, don't we, Jenny?
We do.
So we want you to send those things through to Jenny on sapeople.com. Share the joy. We have a beautiful country. Let's get everybody understanding that. It's not just all about corruption and...
Stop it. You've got a beautiful country, full stop.
Yeah, we have a beautiful country.
Beautiful.
No, I'm just kidding because there was a guy who was out here for the 2020 cricket and he put a whole thing about he was staying in Sandton, and it was just... I read the entire story last night, and it was really kind of quite saddening. And a lot of people are like, yeah, but you're only talking, you can't say it's the whole of South Africa. It was just Joburg. And I'm sitting there and thinking, but imagine if you're in this area and you have to live with that every day of your life. So I've just put there, said, next time you're coming, because he said, I'm never coming back to South Africa. I said, well, the next time you come, just get hold of me, because you need a big, strong blonde who has lots of contacts to look after your ass. And there we have it. Look after your asses too, people, and we'll catch up with you again next week. Jenny, always a pleasure. Lots of love to you.
Thanks, Mel. Bye.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.